Hello, and welcome to this CTSNet Roundtable. Today, we'll be discussing a topic that's quite timely and something that's been on many of our minds. How do you manage an early academic career without meetings? This is a big issue right now as many conferences have been canceled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, I expect that this discussion will be highly relevant to early career surgeons who must take call or are unable to travel due to family needs or other reasons. My name is Antonoff, and I'm a general thoracic surgeon at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston. I'm joined today by some outstanding guests, and I'm confident that their insight will add immensely to this conversation. Before we get started, I'd like to ask each of the panelists to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Lisa Brown. I'm a general thoracic surgeon at UC Davis Health in Sacramento, California.
Tom Varghese. I'm a thoracic surgeon at the University of Utah Health System. I'm an associate professor on the tenure track line in the Department of Surgery and will be a full professor as of July 1st.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
My name's Erin Corsini, and I'm a clinical research fellow at MD Anderson in Houston, Texas.
As we talk about managing an academic career without meetings, let's take a step backwards and talk about the advantages of going to meetings in the first place and the theoretical benefits to one's academic career. Certainly, this is going to be different at each different stage of one's career. So starting with Dr. Corsini, can you share with us the benefit that you would typically expect to get out of a live meeting?
Sure. So meetings have been tremendously helpful to me over the last 2 years that I've been participating in my research fellowship. They've been an opportunity for me to go to meetings, to share my work, to be excited about the topics that I've been investigating, and then to have my name heard and have my face seen, which I think it could be really helpful down the line as I apply it to traditional fellowships.
Sure. What about you, Dr. Brown, in your current role as a young investigator? What is the benefit for you of attending meetings?
I think there's a few benefits. I think first and foremost, it's continuing to network. It's strengthening the bonds that you already have with colleagues across the country and forming new ones. And especially with my research focus, an example of something I've done is kind of strategically choose the sessions that you're going to go to and ask questions. And then that lets people know what type of research you're doing. And then it can segue into collaborations, or you can even find yourself getting invited to be on task forces that are pertinent to your research interests. And then, of course, obviously mentoring. So yeah, I've had a phenomenal mentee last year, and we got James Clark on the podium at AATS and STS, and I think it's helpful to introduce your mentees to your colleagues and people that they need to meet.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Varghese, can you offer your perspective as someone who is more advanced in his academic career at this point?
Yeah, that was Mara's affectionate way of saying that I am the oldest person in this group, but that's okay. My entire career and all the accomplishments that I've achieved till date would not be possible if it were not for the opportunity to meet other individuals in terms of networking. So I'll give you a couple examples. I have formal leadership positions in the American College of Surgeons, in the Society of Thoracic Surgeons, in the NCCN, in the Society of University Surgeons and the Thoracic Surgery Directors Association. None of those positions happen if I didn't have the opportunity to network, to participate in different organizations, volunteer, get things done, have a track record. And so those are those opportunities that all of us are concerned about, that not having the way we've done things before. Now, it's not to say that we should and will evolve and embrace new opportunities, but there's a ton of opportunities that happens. And so when people think about academic meetings, it's not just going and listening passively in an audience of somebody broadcasting some type of science towards us. There's a lot of activity and networking and organization and collaborations and back of the napkin discussions and brainstorming. There's a lot of things happening at each of these academic. It's a lot of work, but the work is rewarding. And I think that those are the things that we'll have to start creatively thinking about what to do as a result of the pandemic.
I'm wondering if any of you can comment on whether you think that your personal career academic advancement has been hindered or delayed by the mass cancellations of meetings this spring.
I can start.
Oh, sorry, go ahead there.
So I think that this probably is unique to my experience, but again, as at the end of my 2-year research fellowship, it would have been a great opportunity for me to have gone to AATS, for example, this spring and share some of my work. at this point, having done this for a couple of years now, I'm more comfortable at the podium. I'm more comfortable answering questions and speaking about my work. And then the networking opportunities that Dr. Varghese and Dr. Brown have mentioned are invaluable. And so to have had those, I wish I had had those opportunities this spring to really have a nice cherry on the top of this experience and continue to foster those type of relationships.
Well, as someone who is quite familiar with your CV, Dr. Corsini, I can assure you that while I know you missed out on some opportunities this spring, I'm confident that anyone who is interested in seeing what a bright future you have ahead of you will give you all of the opportunities in the world, even without seeing you on a podium this spring.
Thank you.
Dr. Brown, any thoughts about whether your career has been impacted in terms of your own academic advancement with these cancellations?
Yeah, I have to say, in some ways, yes. I was excited. I was invited to give a talk at the AETS annual meeting in New York, and I was very much looking forward to that. But I'm hoping to have an opportunity to either deliver that talk at a different time or maybe in a different venue. But I have to say, overall, we have to think about ways to take advantage of this time, because this is unique. It's unfortunate that we can't do as many cases and take care of quite as many patients or network. But, at the end of the day, what it comes down to, the academic currency, especially in terms of research in your CV, is manuscripts. So accepted manuscripts and not the abstracts. And so it's important to get on that podium, but it's even more important to turn that abstract and that presentation into a manuscript and get it published, because that's what's going to take you the furthest. And so I'm using this time to revise some manuscripts that were in the review process, to submit some projects to the IRB and get databases up and running. Even though we can't enroll patients prospectively right now, there's certainly a lot of other things that you can do, even applying for grants and things that you can do behind the scenes. You can always write better where the COVID is. You can write, you can get it done, and you can send papers.
So that works for the academic aspects. When we think about, okay, if we can't be on a podium presenting our science, maybe we can revise a paper that's at a different stage, and we can still center our efforts around the same types of academic work, the same types of projects and endeavors. And I know the main priority of our discussion today is about academics, but just taking a moment aside from that, another idea that I know is an important issue of which everyone on this panel is aware, is that sometimes for women or underrepresented minorities, national meetings are really the best opportunity to congregate with peers and network with others who may not exist at our own home institutions. And I'd love to hear the panelists comment on that area, where that may be an issue for individuals who may not be able to network or find the same types of peer relationships at their own home institution.
I think I can start. And the perspective I bring is having had the privilege of participating in a lot of efforts by the Association of Women Surgeons, Women in Thoracic Surgery, Women in Medicine Summits, as a male ally. And the reason why I say that is that oftentimes in this world, one of the best things about not only the internet and traveling is that if you don't find that local resource at your own institution, you can always travel somewhere or connect with somebody else to get people or connect with those who are in the same situation as you are. That's a significant concern for me in terms of what's going to happen to our specialty. I also think that the things that nobody wants to acknowledge is, as a result of this pandemic, there's going to be a lot of financial implications. And there is no question, if you look at who is out on the front lines fighting this disease, it's predominantly women. You look at, nurses, you look at hospitalists, you look at intensivists, you look at emergency medicine doctors, you're looking at surgeons, you're looking at anesthesiologists. There's a large group who women in the workforce, and sadly, a lot of them are, RVU-based, targets. Meaning the more work they do, they get compensated. We don't know what the financial implications are going to be. I know these are uncomfortable topics, and in a world where people are still worried about whether they'll get the virus or live or not, and everything, the downstream effects. But I am significantly concerned about all of these different issues, and I think that, without that ability or those opportunities to connect with other people beyond your institution, how do you overcome that? Is social media the route to do that? Is it going to be online forums? I'm not quite sure, honestly, but I think that we have to keep that as part of our radar, and we have to do deliberate, concentrated efforts to overcome those barriers.
I do know that from multiple organizations and societies in our specialty, there have been a lot of webinars and roundtables and live stream events surrounding the pandemic. And I am pleased to say that many of them have featured diverse panels. So at least we are helping trainees with the approach of you can't be what you can't see. So we are working on that. But again, as we've discussed, even just the one-to-one conversations and the hugs that we can't do with the social distancing and being remote from one another, it does change things a little bit. Dr. Corsini, Dr. Brown, do you have any thoughts about the lack of academic meetings for people who might be in an underrepresented group?
Yeah, I think, maybe there's an opportunity here. And I think there's an opportunity to come out even better than we were in the past, in terms of we'd wait for the meetings to go to a large conference and hope that we see X number of people that look like us, so that we can network. But I think by default and by necessity, we've all had to become Zoom experts overnight, because we're now where telehealth is leading the way in terms of our ability to interact with our patients and take care of our cancer patients and the patients that still need their essential operations, for those of us who are still able to do those surgeries at our centers. And then also with these conference calls and national task forces and workforces, we still have to communicate. So maybe, there's a big opportunity for women in thoracic surgery and those types of societies to maybe come up with a more formal mentoring process where one-on-one, or maybe small groups of mid-career faculty or early career faculty get together on Zoom meetings, or WebEx, whatever platform you choose, and go about it that way. And that's, and that might stick. It might have staying power.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. The WTS, I've always looked forward to those mixers, and so that's definitely something that I will miss out. So I do think it's an opportunity to find some unique avenues to continue to foster those relationships.
Yeah, we're definitely all learning new skill sets and new ways to connect with different people. I wanted to ask, what have you seen happen to some of the meetings that were previously scheduled during this time? I know that there have been a variety of different approaches, and I'm wondering what you all have seen with some of the meetings that you had planned to attend. I'm aware of go ahead.
Yeah, so everything in the spring is canceled. I think that we have some meetings that are still officially on the schedule right now for the fall.
Yes.
But no offense, unless somebody can magically figure out how to protect everybody safely, how in the world are we ever going to be able to get to a point where, as both Dr. Brown and Dr. Corsini have mentioned, that in a ballroom with thousands of people all confined in a close area, and guarantee that nobody's going to get infected? I mean, we have a long way to go. And so we could be talking about every single potential academic meeting in 2020 that was originally scheduled that way, just getting wiped out. We know that the American College of Cardiology just conducted their annual meeting completely online, virtual. We don't have the numbers yet about how it was well received and how does it look for a presidential address to be delivered virtually. We don't know yet, but so the answer to your question, Mara, is as of right now, there's still some things that are planned in the fall. I personally can't see how that's going to happen unless a vaccine or something else emerges in the coming weeks.
Now, I'll say some of the talks that I had planned to give, some of them, I had one that got moved to an entire year later. They just decided they're not going to plan the following year's meeting, and they would use the entire meeting from 2020 and make it 2021, and the same venue and everything else. I had one talk that was scheduled to be in August that's been moved to January. And I am aware of some talks that have been converted to online virtual platforms like Dr. Varghese mentioned. But what about the ones where they're just totally canceled with no plan to reschedule? How would you guys suggest handling that in terms of documentation on one CV? Like for me, Dr. Brown, I had a similar circumstance. I was excited that I was invited to speak on a topic that I felt passionate about. And for us at this stage of our career, there's an opportunity where maybe we're not presenting an abstract, but actually being invited to be an expert on a topic. And you were recognized as an expert for being able to give that talk. You probably prepared the slides. and you're not able to deliver the talk, do you feel like you put it on your CV, you don't put it on your CV, you put it with an explanation, meeting canceled due to coronavirus pandemic? How would you guys suggest people handle that?
Well, the tips that I've seen, and a lot of this has been shared on social media, the most common one that I've seen is for people to create a separate section in their CV, because all these invitations are definite honors. I mean, a peer-reviewed abstract like Dr. Corsini had that was supposed to be presented, that's an acknowledgement. The talk that Dr. Brown was going to give at the AATS, those are things that happened. And I think that you need to, it's kind of like the best way to compare it to is many of us have created podcasts, many of us have created webinars, and we don't know where to put those in your CV. And so what do you end up doing? You create a separate section in your CV
Sure.
and then just list it out. And maybe what we all need to do is do that. These are the things that were scheduled during the pandemic time, just leave it that. And my gut instinct is, I think for academia, the most, promotion committees are going to acknowledge that their faculty were going to do that. We're starting to see a lot of Fed departments give grace periods in terms of, the academic clock, that they were supposed to go up for promotion this year. And if the faculty member feels that as a result of not having given those presentations or publications that they need an additional year, that academic departments are giving them that grace period of time. But I think we have to get creative. It's a great question. I don't think anybody truly has a 100% correct answer on how to deal with this.
Yeah, I don't
Dr.
think
Brown?
right answer, but that's what I've heard the same thing as Tom is mentioning, in terms of, you put it on your CV. You were invited to give that talk, or your manuscript or your abstract was accepted to be presented at the meeting. So, you want credit for it. And the thing that I also read was to, have caution about, should you then take that research or that talk and give it at a different venue when you prepared it for another, the original meeting.
Yeah,
and the
that's
answer
hard.
Probably not, until you find out what the original game plan for the meeting is. Because you had mentioned that you have a meeting that's rescheduled. The entire meeting is just going to the next year. So you have to save that talk for that meeting, because it's for that. And I would imagine that wouldn't be ideal to be given that talk at other in other situations prior to then. So I don't know if you've heard the same thing. That's just what I was.
Yeah, it's hard to know what to do. And I assume, Dr. Corsini, you're just waiting to hear what to be told what to do, I suppose.
I heard to cite it as the meeting was canceled due to the COVID pandemic, but I hadn't actually heard of an option to create a new section on your CV, but I'll have to investigate more to see what is the preferred method.
Yeah, and I think that there's a quote that I always keep in mind, and that's from the current amazing chair of surgery at the University of Wisconsin, Dr. Rebecca Minter. And she always says that if you've been promoted at one institution, it means that you've been promoted at one institution. And the reason why she says that is the advancement and promotion policies of one institution are not going to be exactly the same as at another institution. And so part of this is acknowledging that there may be some principles, but always check in with your own individual institution or the group that you work for, because they may have some specific things worth considering, or some strategies that they want their faculty to do as well. And so I think it's a balance of looking for best practices out there, but always make sure that you have in-depth knowledge of your own policies and procedures at your own institution.
Sure. So let's talk about opportunities to continue to promote one's academic work in the absence of these meetings. I think all of us are fairly active on social media. What are the ways that we can help promote our work even when we may not be able to present it live? Would any of you be willing to share your thoughts?
Yeah, I think, a couple of ways to do it is, like I was mentioning earlier, this is the perfect time to actually kind of get down to it and roll up your sleeves and write the papers and do the work. Because all those things take time, but then you want credit for it. So you want to get it out there, right? And if you can't do it at a meeting, I would say, the best way to do it is to have friends with a lot of Twitter followers like you and Tom. and basically, create I think that's where the visual abstract comes in, because a lot of people might not get past, the title of your paper, and you want to create a nice visual of what your paper actually found, because that will allow people to scroll through and get the scientific information that you want them to have as the author, without, maybe they don't necessarily have time to read the whole paper. And so, and again, you reach out to I think it's also thinking about when you submit your articles to journals, who do you submit it to? You look at impact factor, but you also have to look at who's going to be reading these articles. What's the readership, and where do you want your science to stand out, and what cohort of surgeons? And so you could do that with social media as well. And perhaps you could tag, if you're a cardiac surgeon and you want the cardiologist's attention, collaborate with some of the cardiologists and see if they'd be willing to promote your work. And on our end, pulmonology. And that's just how I was thinking about, how can you get your work out there in the setting of, not being able to actually go present it yourself.
Yeah, and I would say for those who are not facile on social media, a lot of people are finding their cases being canceled, their clinics thinning out. This is a good time to really read a few how to do it articles and figure out how to get active on social media and to do that kind of promotion, because it will pay dividends, because you'll use it now to promote your work, but you'll be able to use it in the future as well. I would also say, because so many people are either working from home or spending a lot more time in front of their computers instead of in the clinical environment, there's going to be a greater acceptance and willingness to participate in things like tweet chats and webinars. And so those are other ways to promote your work. You can write a blog about your article. You can write editorials about other people's. There's so many different ways that you can get active academically during this time period. And in addition, there are a lot of organizations that need help because of the crisis that we're in. And all of those things can turn into lines on your CV. So while I have a few invited talks that I already have had canceled because of this situation, I've also had the opportunity to participate in a handful of other activities that do translate into some sort of line on my CV, in some way or another, even if it may be alternative forms of scholarship, such as blogs or moderating tweet chats, things of that sort. Dr. Varghese, Dr. Corsini, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that looking for those opportunities, and sometimes the opportunities may present themselves and you don't really think about it because it's not the typical method. I'll give you an example. One of our TSDA executive conference calls, we had talked about, well, we're halfway through the thoracic surgery match right now. Some programs have had in-person interviews. Other programs are still trying to figure out what to do, and they need to do virtual interviews, and what are the best practices. And so I put together a compilation of best practices, presented it, and gave it to the TSDA. They loved it. They put it on their website. So as a result, I put it on social media. And the next thing you know, the AAMC loved it so much, they put it as part of their research. If you put COVID-19 virtual interviews, you'll see our virtual interview primer. Great. That's posted on there. And so sometimes there's these opportunities that kind of present themselves. And I think that it's really a reflection of people are really looking towards, the non-traditional methods. And so social media does help. I think there's a lot of avenues and a lot of opportunities. This CTSNet, roundtable discussion we're having right now, you can imagine more of these type of roundtable discussions happening in the near future. And so part of it is just being open and willing to participate in these type of efforts. I love what Dr. Brown mentioned about even collaborating with people that you normally would not have collaborated with, within your own institution. Mm-hmm. Well, now that you're confined, maybe it's an opportunity to look across the different departments and divisions within your own institution and go and meet with the biomedical engineering folks, or go and meet with somebody in the School of Public Health and talk to them about, hey, are there opportunities that we can collaborate
on Zoom though, right? On Zoom.
On Zoom. But I mean, I think people are going to be open to that right now because everybody around the world is struggling with the same issues.
Yeah.
Sure. And actually, Tom, we just did that at our institution. We're looking into purchasing certain, databases for research, and it just so happens we're looking at a database that caught the eye of some of the internal medicine docs, and so we're thinking we're going to go in on a institutional agreement. And I'm thinking if we were all clinically busy, we might not have started meeting and talking about things. So.
And of course, with the clinical busyness, this might be a pause. I mean, a month from now, all of our schedules may be psychotically busy. We don't know.
Right.
And so I think it's really taking opportunities. At the same time, don't get me wrong, everybody needs to stay healthy and be well. I mean, it's an anxiety-provoking time, and heck, if there's one day you just say that, listen, I don't want to take care of any academic stuff, I just want to take care of myself, great, go and do that. That's totally fine. It's allowed right now. And I think that we have to give each other grace and give each other the benefit of the doubt as well.
I think we've learned to communicate in different ways too. I mean, right now I'm not active clinically, I'm just focused on research. And so I've been working at home exclusively for the last month, but I've noticed myself checking in with faculty mentors much more often, asking how can I stay involved? Am I providing enough updates? Are there different ways that I can provide updates? Please let me know how I can be active, because I don't have the opportunity to just walk into someone's office and say, what's going on? What can I help with? And so that's one way that I've been able to try to stay active, involved locally.
I think that's a great point about checking in. No matter what anybody says, human beings are social. I mean, we are. And, you see some discussions of, oh, this is going to eliminate in-person meetings forever, and we never need to connect with, that's all, a bunch of BS. I mean, I think that we need to get innovative and creative, but at the same time, we need to be able to socially check in with each other. So I think, Dr. Corsini, that's fantastic that you're doing that, just checking in and your mentors checking in with you, these Zoom hangouts, whatever you want to call it. We need to do that. And maybe these collaborations and unique methods of communication are opportunities to do exactly that.
Well, Dr. Varghese, that's a great segue into the next comment that I wanted to bring up, which, we've talked briefly about these meetings as a congregating point of peers, especially those who may lack networking opportunities at their own institution. But really just the social activities for all comers are very important. And I think that something probably is lost when we don't have a face-to-face meeting. And so just to share an experience of my own, I was very fortunate to have the opportunity to virtually attend the STS meeting in 2017, which was just a few weeks after the birth of my fourth child. And the question that was posed to me by a number of individuals was that if I was able to dial into all those committee meetings and to present my work, my own abstracts and invited presentations through Skype and pre-recorded videos, to even need to have live meetings at all anymore. Several people asked me that, since I was able to successfully attend and participate and be involved, why do we even have to have live meetings? And my sense was that a resounding yes, we do need to have live meetings, just that there's something very special in my mind about being in a room with one's colleagues, one's peers, and all the experts in a given area, and really just being fully committed to it for a couple of days. And obviously, that was a different circumstance where, I was calling into a committee meeting with a newborn in my arm, and it makes it a little bit challenging as well. But still, being fully committed to everything that's going on in that meeting, I think is important for being focused on getting stuff done, but also the social aspect of it. And I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are in this area.
Yeah, I think the social aspect is a big one, because I agree with Tom. I mean, when it comes down to it, we're social people. We're not meant to have Zoom meetings and see all of our through the, through our screen.
Exactly.
Every day. It's starting to drive me nuts. I live alone. I'm pretty happy with that, but it feels kind of strange, right? I'm fortunate that we have jobs and we can come here and we are interacting from afar. So I'm thankful for that I'm not totally alone at home 24/7, which would be a little bit challenging. But the social aspects of these meetings are huge, because let's face it, we're all professional, but sometimes, it helps to have the dinners and to, talk about other things in our lives besides just the scientific portions. And I would imagine when you logged on as a remote, attendee when you had your baby, that you were just going to the scientific meetings and the task force meetings, and you can't log yourself in or webinar into the WTS reception. I don't know, maybe you could have.
Right.
But that's a totally different ballgame. And I think there's different connections that you make at those types of events that are huge. And
I completely agree. As a trainee, it's very nice to go to meetings and interact with experts in the field and people that I admire and aspire to be, but also to hear about their life outside of work and their hobbies and their families, and to get that perspective, because I see what happens at work every day, but I also want to see the other perspective and get to hear about their life as an academic surgeon who is happy with all of their other hobbies in life as well.
And I'll be honest with you, for extroverts like myself, this sucks. This is terrible. I mean, it just, I enjoy being, around people who are much smarter than me, who can inspire me. I get ideas. I get energized. You do your work. You're taking care of your patients. You go to a meeting. You connect with amazing human beings. You get inspired. You come back. I mean, that's been my career till now. And now, heck, I miss everybody. I mean, a mentor to all of us, Dr. Shanda Blackman, Shanda and I, we have a tradition of having a breakfast every year at the AATS meeting. We've been doing that now for the last 6 years. There's no breakfast this year. And so it's just, it's these little things that you start realizing you miss. And obviously my hope is, we'll learn from this, and there's some strategies, but I am hopeful that we can get back to a world where we can get together and meet in person. And there's no question about that.
I think those are great points, Tom. I also just want the viewers to realize that it's okay to also feel along the lines that somehow I feel when I go to these meetings. I'm very excited. I really enjoy them. I love interacting with everybody and doing all the social events and exchanging ideas, but I personally find them exhausting at times. So the person for it, travel, I like my sleep. I think I'm an introvert who can play a good extrovert. So I come back from those meetings feeling completely like battery, 0%, and I need to recharge and I need to hide out. So if you're one of those people, it's okay. You're not alone.
Yeah. Well, good. This has been a really fantastic discussion. I know our time is running short. I just wanted to see if anyone has any closing thoughts they'd like to share.
I think I wanted to second what Tom said too about, I think we've said, all these things and I have, you have these days where you're very productive and to just, you're going to have other days where it's not, because we're in an area of uncertainty. We don't know when this is all going to end. We have colleagues and family members and friends that we're worried about. So, go easy on yourself if you're not having the day that you planned you were going to have in terms of productivity or goals and things. So just, as Dr. Patters would say, chill out, relax.
Relax. That's great. Right. Absolutely. No, I just wanted to say thank you to each and every one of you that are here today, to all the people who will be listening and watching this later on. I mean, it's a terrible thing that we're going through right now, but I am unbelievably confident that we'll emerge stronger because we have amazing human beings on this planet. And I don't know what the world in the future is going to look like. I don't know how academic meetings are going to look like in the future, but I'm confident that no matter what the circumstance, we'll figure out a strategy and figure out a way forward.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate everyone's time on the panel today, and we wish all of you health and safety through this difficult time.